I hold out to you a glorious prize, Don Hernan Cortés told his assembled forces, but it is to be won by incessant toil. Great things are achieved only by great exertions. That was the conquistador's promise, as he and his followers prepared to sail for the place they called Yucatan. The year was 1519, the glorious prize in question, Aztec Mexico. Cortés had mustered his army on the shore at Cuba's Cape Corrientes, a force of around 500 Spanish soldiers accompanied by several hundred native Cubans. A fleet of 11 ships lay just offshore, loaded with horses, assorted weapons and artillery, and as much cassava bread and salt pork as he'd been able to lay in stock. Cortés was not a tall man. By some accounts he stood at just 5'4", but since being appointed Captain-General of the Armada, he had taken to wearing a hat with a large plume of feathers. This was complemented by a black velvet coat with golden knots and a gold medallion, heralding the glittering promise of great riches waiting just across the opal sea. Cortés was true to his word. Battered by a violent storm, they made land at Yucatan to be faced by hostile Mayan warriors vastly outnumbering them. Arrows and spears were no match for the fiery lightning of Spanish cannon and musket, but for Cortés and his exhausted army, victory brought no respite. Making camp on the burning sands of the Tierra Caliente, they were tormented by swarms of parasitic insects. The heat was unbearable, but Cortés insisted his soldiers keep their armor on at all times. Even when they slept, it was with weapons at hand. Marching east into the snow-clad mountains of the Cordillera, the Spanish were ambushed by their enemies and besieged by cold. This, though, was life in the army of Cortés, a general whose mantra was, "Succeed or perish." Upon hearing that some of his soldiers were considering retreat, their patience exhausted by a life of fatigue and peril, the conquistador acted decisively. He sent back orders to sink their own ships. Then, just as they were beginning to despair, a vision appeared to stir their cavalier spirits, a thin column of smoke rising from a mountain's summit. Drawing closer, they saw the smoke coming from within the mountain. High on Mexico's Sierra Nevada, it was the 17,694-foot stratovolcano Popocatépetl.